Joe, what teams do you think have an opportunity due to their position, due to their volume, to go in and really crush this draft?
Yeah, I think that the New England Patriots are the first team that I
Yeah.
think about that like are in a really strong position. They're trying to build off of the promise that Drake May presents. And now that Mike Vrabel is in charge, he's trying to set the culture. So this year is going to be a culture building year. Get guys that could be contributing starters, rebuild this offensive line. It all starts with that top five pick that they have. And maybe they decide to use that pick to draft an offensive lineman like it's Will Campbell or it's Armand Membow to protect Drake May. And then the second is the Seattle Seahawks, who were big sellers during the offseason. They signed Sam Darnold, but they moved on from DK Metcalf. They moved on from Geno Smith, and they accumulated a bunch of midday picks in a draft class where there's a bunch of potential starters that can be found on day two. It is a rare class that we have so many options for guys that end up being quality names for a team that maybe don't turn out to be Pro Bowlers, but
Mm.
just are important for a team's success. So having the amount of day two picks that they have in the 2025 draft, I think really sets them up for strong potential to come out of this group with a core that is going to help them reach the playoffs in 2025.
And is there a team that you're looking at on the other side of that coin that you don't necessarily expect to have a good draft, whether that's due to management, their placement, or lack of picks?
I wouldn't frame this so much as a team that don't think will have a good draft, but I think a team that is incredibly desperate that has to
Mm.
draft as effectively as possible, and that's the Houston Texans who have picked 25.
Okay.
They were really aggressive of completely reworking and reshaping their O line for chemistry issues. They traded
Mm.
away Laramie Tunsil. They traded away Kenyon Green. They have to find multiple starters because last year's results did not cut it. CJ Stroud has shown so much promise, but he was one of the most attacked quarterbacks in the NFL. And we saw that in their playoff game
Yes.
against the Chiefs. If they don't come away with two new starters, or at least guys who can compete to start, and they
Mm.
don't get a new starting tackle in the first round, I would be really, really worried about the Texans' future.
Okay, so there's a few teams specifically that I want to ask you about. So the Cowboys, it is no secret here that they need weapons on offense. CeeDee Lamb just cannot do it all by himself. Do they have to go receiver at 12?
I don't think that they have to. I think that the biggest importance for them in just their first three picks of this draft is finding more weapons. Last year,
Yeah.
there was no explosiveness from their offense. We know CeeDee Lamb is great, but like, man, the guy can't do everything. We got to find a starting caliber running back. Maybe that is Ashton Genty at pick 12. Maybe in the second round, it's Caleb Johnson or it's DJ Giddens or Damian Martinez. There's a lot of really good running back options, but they should consider drafting a receiver at pick 12, whether that's Matthew Golden from Texas, who is super fast and a great route runner with reliable hands, or it is Tedero McMillan, who would thrive in those one-on-one situations and dominating off of the fact that a lot of people are focused on locking down CD Lamb.
Mm. Okay, the Niners are also an interesting team to me. Still a lot of talent on that team, but man, that Super Bowl hangover was so rough. So they have 11 picks this year. They could use depth at defensive line, help an offensive line. What do you see John Lynch doing here?
Historically, they've been a really good drafting team.
Mhm.
They have a rare opportunity here to get multiple big time playmakers early. And I think that with that top pick that they have at pick 11, there's a chance for them to come away with one of the best offensive linemen or one of the best interior defensive linemen. I think that they have to prioritize somebody who is going to be disruptive in the interior on defense, whether that's Kenneth Grant from Michigan, who is a massive 330-pound mauler, or it's Mason Graham, who's on the board and available, who has some really great hand usage and leverage that he plays with. He plays like a wrestler like he was in high school. And then on the flip side, there are options for them on offensive line where they can end up drafting Will Campbell, who is one of the most technically proficient and refined blockers in this class. He's got
Mm.
great nuance and understanding of how to win reps and how to counter moves from pass rushers. He can play a guard, he can play a tackle, depending on what they want to prioritize. Or they could end up taking somebody like Kelvin Banks or Armand Membo, who are both quality athletes that have great explosiveness and could play guard or tackle, depending on what they think is their biggest need.
How about the Kansas City Chiefs? Made it to the Super Bowl, but good God, that was not their best game. Where do they go in this draft?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of potential for them to draft an offensive lineman. at
Mhm.
that top spot. They tried to wait until day 2 last year when they took Kingsley Somatea and didn't end up panning out the way that they were hoping for. They were sellers with their offensive line during the offseason, so they can
Yes.
end up picking one of these interior guys. Maybe it's Tyler Booker from Alabama who's on the board. Maybe it's Gray Zabel from North Dakota State who's on the board. Or the interior of their defensive line could use a better presence. And I would look at guys that are currently sliding a little bit for character questions, specifically Walter Nolan would be a really good pick for them, who they've got a great culture. Steve Spagnuolo is a great defensive coordinator, and you
Mm.
could unlock Nolan despite maybe some question marks about like his total focus and work ethic. And I'd lastly throw in there Derek Harmon from Oregon, who I don't think is going to be there, but if he's on the board, I think that they got to rush to the podium with his versatility and what
Mm.
he could do playing alongside Chris Jones.
Okay, and last question for you, Joe. Is this the year the Packers finally draft a receiver in the first round? Is this it?
I,
Finally?
I,
I think it's been
I,
what, 2002?
It's been a million years, and sadly, I don't think so. Because this receiver class is not a very gifted one. There's nobody where they're picking that is going to make them run to the podium. Because the whole talking point with the Packers right now is that they don't have that alpha. They've got a good receiving room. They've got some
Mm.
quality receivers, but they just don't have that 1,200-yard guy that late game situation you can call on him and he's going to come down with the football. They don't have Devontae Adams anymore. This class doesn't really have one of those players. So adding another guy to the mix that's going to play a specific role, I don't
Mhm.
think makes sense for them to do in the first round. They could certainly do it on day 2, but in the first round, I don't think it's going to come to fruition.